All right, let's do it. Hit that bell, hit that buzzer right there, dude in the middle, clapping a lot with the lady in your screen right. There, ding, ding, ding. That's the closing bell, folks. Closing bell signals the end of trading on Wall Street and the beginning of the bowling show at RAV. Markets up. Well, so interesting, right? So Dow up 252, sounds good. S&P up 32, sounds good. NASDAQ up 184, sounds good. But Dow was up 650 at one point after the announcement of some sort of tariff deal with at least Starmer, with Great Britain, maybe the EU. Markets jumped, but it really lost a ton of profitability earlier in the day. Oil up $2 a barrel, $100.93, about hit $60 a barrel. I will tell you, gold 33. Bitcoin, you guys have Bitcoin? I got everyone. We're all involved in Bitcoin, right? All around here. 101,000 again. 101,000. All-time high is 107. Got all the way down to 74, 75,000. Back to 101,000. So everything else seems to be volatile. Bitcoin is about, gold and Bitcoin are about the only two safe I should say, this is my opinion here. I'm not telling you to do it. Gold and Bitcoin have been the two best investments, let's put it that way, have been the two best investments for the last, 3 or 4 years. By the way, a new pope was named, the first American ever to be pope, by the way. Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost of Chicago was named the new pope, taking the name Pope Leo XIV. He addressed Catholics worldwide. I think there are around 2 billion Catholics worldwide, happened to be one of them. Only took the conclave 2 days to choose the 69-year-old cardinal to become the new pontiff. The Pope Leo XIV spent a good portion of his career as a South American missionary. He was the president of the Pontifical Commission for Latin America, and more recently, he led the bishop appointments at the Vatican. Question is, will he follow Pope Francis and his left-leaning ideology? We shall see. A lot of people, including Charlie Kirk, good friend, a lot of MAGA people aren't so thrilled with this. A lot of MAGA people are not thrilled. I'm just being honest here. I'm putting it out there. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm willing to wait and see what happens. And sometimes when you get the high office, maybe you change it a little bit. But there are a lot of tweets that we pulled up. I just pulled them up of this new Pope, Leo XIV, really kind of ripping Trump when Bukele was in the Oval Office. And again, it's always about immigration with these Catholic popes. So, all right, we'll leave it right there. It's a really scary time now, folks. It's upon us. Another slew of mostly democracy and America hating young Americans are graduating from colleges and universities around the country and joining the real world, feeling like they're owed something for all of their disdain and anger for the rest of the world. Most of them, not all of them, as we saw with the University of Alabama, where President Trump just spoke, but so many of them are coming out with diplomas that are useless and expensive, by the way. They've been taught to really dislike America. I mean, teachers in the college level really are left-leaning, and they just don't like what we're all about, do they? They're more communist, more socialist in nature. They don't like the free market. They don't like the capitalism. They hate the free market economy, and they think that the world is ending in 5 years due to made-up concept, something called climate change. Perhaps even more frightening is this fact. They think that the likes of AOC, Jasmine Crockett, Bernie Private Jet Sanders, Gavin Newsom, and Jen Psaki are going to save them from our version of democracy. And here's the thing. They'll stop at nothing to hurt America because they hate Trump and they hate what we're about. They're becoming one of the biggest threats to democracy, literal threats. It goes without saying the future of America is looking a bit murky these days by the looks of much of the graduating class of 2025. I won't sugarcoat it, we're screwed. For one thing, aside from the Marxist propaganda that's flooding so many of these graduates' minds these days, these children really aren't really learning much of anything else because apparently most of their work is being handled courtesy of ChatGPT. Must be nice. I mean, the defense fund for Luigi Mangione, the alleged murderer of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, is up to a whopping $1 million. $1 million. That's the kind of mentality we're dealing with. But What we've seen over the last couple of years, and most notably and shockingly over the past few days, for example, here's a terrorist-loving student at Temple University who clearly wakes up every day choosing violence.
When we ask the university to divest from imperialism, the only way to fill that demand is destroying the university. And we should embrace that, because that's something we have to do if we're going to get real about liberation. We must accept the eventuality of bringing the USA to its knees, educate and disseminate and loop in other people on why these are victories, because we know it's victories. We know it's a victory when a red triangle goes above an Israeli soldier's head and the pig gets iced. Like, we know that's a victory.
The mask, nice touch, gives it away every time. But he wants to destroy the university, and that's Temple's problem, but he's not stopping there. Bring America to its knees. You see, that becomes our problem, all of our problem. And the sad thing is, he's not just an outlier, he's starting to represent the norm coming out of our schools. Now, I know what you're thinking. Eric, you're talking about these elite universities, the Ivy League, the top 40 ranked schools. Not all of them have these issues, maybe, but here's the thing. The top companies, government agencies, they all hire graduates from these schools aggressively. That is, if their education is anything beyond studying the art of walking, yes, that's a real thing, or tree climbing, yep, also a real thing. And by the way, at Cornell University, no less, one of America's esteemed Ivy League centers, or this one, arguing with Judge Judy, taught unsurprisingly at UC Berkeley. One of the best schools in the country, they say. But if they actually manage to fake their way through business courses or something more useful to corporate America, these kids are the future of the country. They're helping to build companies. They're shaping future methods, policies. And that fact is scaring the crap out of me, and it should scare the crap out of you too. We already know that Qatar, Iran, Hamas, they've all infiltrated our universities. They've been doing so for years, donating money, sending speakers, planting professors, all with the end goal of instilling certain ideas and agendas into the future of America. And by the way, it's working. They're not stopping at universities. That's just their starting point. And don't take my word for it, again, courtesy of Temple University.
So we see this existential connection between the Palestinian students movement and the political prisoners. So the Palestinian student, the day after of Oslo, they changed their activism from the campus to the armed struggle. If Palestine is liberated, this means this is a nail to dismantle the United States of America.
You heard that? That's their goal. They've made it clear. Dismantle the United States of America. They're saying it loud and clear. And they're gaining supporters, by the way. It's not a drill. The reports things like this. Watch this. This summer, a CCP agent impersonated a Stanford student, and that CCP is orchestrating a widespread intelligence gathering campaign at Stanford University. In short, there are Chinese spies all over Stanford. Think about it. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris spent years letting all these people into our country to have their way with our schools, with our borders, with our neighborhoods. And Barack Obama, the same. 8 years of that. And those policies made it possible for our institutions, our universities, government, and even military to be tampered with by Chinese immigrants and spies. Our universities are breeding grounds for terrorist sympathizers. Just look what's going on at Columbia University in New York. Absolute breeding grounds for our adversaries to infiltrate and spy on our younger population. Again, the future of the country. Columbia University, that's beyond a lost cause, might as well rename itself Hamas University and get over with it. Terrorist supporters attacking cops, taking over buildings, blocking students from getting into the library during final exams. Not only are students racking up insane debt for their education, but don't forget, our tax dollars help pay for that right there. That nonsense right there. A lot of our tax dollars being spent right there. And then we got to pay to clean it up when we send cops. Here's a staggering stat. 60% of Columbia grad students are not American. 60% are not American. Over 40% of the graduate faculty, also international. Any surprise or shock that this is ground zero for the Marxist cultural revolution? Again, our tax dollars help pay for this. It's more than BS. It's disastrous and threatens our safety and existence. This goes well beyond freedom of speech. This is tampering with prosperity, taking over buildings and schools. The University of Washington, using the Summer of Love as their role model, lighting streets on fire, not freedom of speech, arson, criminal behavior, not mostly peaceful either. CNN, the University of Wisconsin, violence, anarchy. These schools are breeding a full-blown uprising against America within America by Americans. Sure, we can arrest some of these pro-terrorist, America-hating jackals, but the demand is there and the damage is there, and it's going a lot deeper than just a few students or even non-students. They're here, and trying to remove them only pushes these Soros-bought activist judges to try to keep them here. Remember, it's all connected, and it all links back to their desire to take down America, and they're not hiding it either. Like I said, it's a scary time right now. Our enemies are a lot closer than we even know. Beware of the graduating class of 2025. All right, before we head to break, I want to remind you all about my podcast and YouTube page, both updated daily. Sure, you can hear this show anytime, anywhere you want it. But also, don't forget, we put a lot of other content up. So make sure you subscribe. Just hit subscribe on YouTube and or any of the podcast areas, and it's free. It'll always be free, but a bunch of different content as well. We'll be back in 2.5 minutes. We're going to bring Mike Benson to maybe analyze how all these international students are being funded to really subvert American democracy when we come back. And there it is. By the way, the smallest country by far on the planet. Vatican City considered its own sovereign country, where they elected new Pope, Pope Leo XIV, Prevost from Chicago today. All right, my next guest, the executive director of the Foundation for Freedom Online, and he's concerned. Well, I want to get to the North Carolina. I want to hear concerned about Tom Tillis not allowing one of Trump's picks to get through, but Mike Benz, let me bring you in right now. Mike, the monologue I just read a minute ago talks about how these uprisings in some of our major universities, I mean, some of our esteemed universities, a lot of these feel like they're foreign student, certainly backed, maybe even paid for by foreigners. Columbia, University of Washington, UC Berkeley, some of these schools, Madison, Wisconsin. Tell us, what do you know about how these people are being funded and organized?
Well, there's a significant amount of reporting about a year and a half ago when a lot of these university takeovers were happening around October 7th, that there was money coming in from the George Soros Open Society Foundation, that other large philanthropies, places connected to USAID, and its funding of various Middle East proxies had some role in pass-through funding, not in a direct sense, but in a sort of pass-through funding to these groups. And my concern about this has been around the aspects of the Iran deal that seem to play a funny role in this Israel-Palestine debate and in how this gets manifested on the streets. Colombia, it should be noted, is a hotbed for CIA work. It's really where the CIA first got involved in the university sector. If anyone knows the story of Philip Mosley and the creation of Sovietology and the merger of academia, intelligence, and philanthropy, it really started at Columbia in the 1950s in tandem with Harvard, actually. And I've actually done a bunch of lectures on that exact topic. But what you've seen is this network is also been responsible for Russiagate, and many of the folks around Russiagate. Columbia, for example, is something called the School of International Politics. They have the CIPA, International Political Affairs, and professors at that school include Victoria Nuland, Hillary Clinton, and actually recently Mike Pompeo joined as well.
Actual professors or adjunct? You know,
yes, yeah, exactly. Right. They're at essentially a political institute, which is, you know, a way of being able to host events and get thought leadership out and use the resources of the university without having to teach full semesters of courses. And so the fact that
Mike, so in your findings, Open Society, George Soros, or others, maybe even more, if it's possible, be more nefarious. Maybe foreign governments is money actually being funneled into these actual protests? Are they all students, or are there professional agitators mixed in with them?
Well, the funding was reported again about a year and a half ago. It's unclear whether or not in this case you're going to see the same sources of funding, whether or not things will move through other dark money channels, or whether or not these are genuine, authentic expressions with no outside or foreign funding. I don't know the answer to that. This is speculation to try to be responsive to the question. But if you look at what by and large this advances, this is where it gets to this very strange proxy war between the Biden foreign policy establishment and the Trump foreign policy establishment, where you had it was under Barack Obama in his second term that the Iran deal was inked. That was hotly opposed by Israel and Netanyahu. Then it actually created a big divide between Israel and the U.S. foreign policy establishment. When Trump came in, he reversed that. It's interesting to note that the Iran deal was personally negotiated. The lead negotiator for it was then State Department official Bill Burns, who would go on to be the 4-year head of the CIA for Joe Biden. And we've seen an attempt to try to have a reshaping of Middle East policy, especially before October 7th. Around that, you saw this exact same network, as well as all the way up to Chuck Schumer, the head, who at the time under the Biden administration was the head of the Senate, and then echoed by Joe Biden, that they were calling openly for regime change in Israel. You saw Chuck Schumer call for, say that the president of Israel was not legitimate and called for new elections. Joe Biden echoed that, and what I think you see in the universities is a kind of proxy war between different foreign policy schools who are trying to compete on the home turf of global influence, which is U.S. university campuses.
I have 4 or 5 minutes with you, Mike, and my time's valuable because you are just a wealth of knowledge. I just want to talk to you. I noted JFK files came out. It wasn't really that startling. We didn't really see a lot of things in there. More files dropped. I think 50 or 60,000 pages more dropped recently. Here's the question, though. When and why is it taking so long? When are the Epstein files going to be released?
Right. And I should note, I actually do think the JFK files revealed an incredible tome of, not necessarily related to the assassination of JFK, but there were many other things about the structure of the CIA, hard facts and figures, the naming of specific institutions that are still around today and their involvement with the CIA back in the 1960s. And so I actually was very happy about the reveals in the JFK files. But as to the Epstein files, Trump recently said he did not know the status of them. It was a Pam Bondi question. Then Pam Bondi said that the FBI, DOJ are actively reviewing. Then we had James Comer from the Oversight Committee said that he feared or suspected that the Justice Department or the FBI was either deleting files or had previously deleted files. My sense is the Epstein files are a long ways off, and I hope that we get them. I hope that we get them soon. My fear is that because the folks and characters involved in the Epstein kerfuffle, if you will, are alive and well today, and you have a coalition to hold together. We saw this in the Ed Martin affair that's playing out. Ed Martin, who I believe is the best person to be D.C. prosecutor, it was tanked by a single Republican, Tom Tillis, not voting for his nomination out of committee. And then we saw he could have been removed by John Thune, but the head of the Senate, but was not. And my fear is because the Epstein story is a bipartisan one, there may be a political calculus that full declassification of the Epstein files may not allow Trump to get a budget done, may jeopardize Trump's international affairs relations at a time when we're renegotiating the world order. So I was optimistic.
Help me out here. Help me out. I get the international one. There may be names on that list that'll be ticked off that they were released. But you think there are current House members, senators that are on the list that would kind of exclude them from, and they would have to be on the GOP side, they would exclude them from possibly voting?
Yes, I don't see Epstein as a partisan figure. Obviously, he traveled with Bill Clinton, but the fact is almost like all lobbyists or access agents, they are active on all sides of the aisle. And the fact is I don't think that you're necessarily going to see a huge number of Republican senators and congressmen who are, say, on the Lolita Express flight logs or on the client list. You're going to see pass-through money. You're going to see, intelligence reports that either go to Congress or that go to their large donors or significant constituents. This is a business enterprise that Epstein was involved in. He was funding institutions like MIT, investing in companies and airlines. He was running a giant financial portfolio, and anyone who is touched by that is going to get stained. And you had this lobbying effort through the Epstein network that could potentially humiliate a significant portion of the GOP, especially and anything that gets a stain on that is going to drive a wedge between Trump and Congress. And the issue is how do you even negotiate that without declassifying it first? And the question is I think there's just a lot of internal political calculus, much more when it comes to the Epstein files than when it comes to JFK.
The thought, from here is that if we don't get him now, we'll never get him. Like Trump has been transparent about so many things. If we don't get the Epstein files before midterms, certainly I don't exactly understand how we ever will see them, and I think most Americans want to see it. Mike, I'm throwing a curveball here to you, maybe, and if you can't, you can't, but I'd love to. Do you have a few minutes? We have a 2.5 minute break. Can you stick around for just a minute?
Sure can.
Cool. All right, folks, we'll be right back. 2.5 minutes. Live picture, was it 6 hours in front of us, later than us, right, Mad Dog? So
yes, sir.
Like 10:29 p.m. live. Look at that, live shots. Gotta love them. All right, we're back with very brilliant Mike Benz. Oh, come on, Trish, you got my ear to say Mike Benz. I know it's Mike Benz. Obviously, it's Mike Benz. I was trying to figure out the proper adjective, like super smart, guru, brilliant. I said super. Anyway, Mike, you open up a can of worms for me. I hope my audience is intrigued as I am. So the Epstein list likely has been and is being held back because there are so many on that list who are politicians that you got to figure out where your leverage is as the people opening and delivering. You got to figure out where your risks are and where your leverages are. Is that it?
Yeah, among other reasons, I think that's a very significant one. Epstein got his start during the Republican era of Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush, when he was involved in Iran-Contra and involved in the Ronald Reagan CIA National Security Council effort to sidestep the Democrats' bar on running guns to the Nicaraguan Contras under what was called the Bolling Amendment. And then the Reagan administration's National Security Council circumvented that by running guns and dealing drugs and running the smuggling network out of Mena, Arkansas, and out of Miami. Epstein was involved in that arms running operation. He was working with the Adnan Khashoggi network, the Saudi network there, which was it came to obviously play a major role in U.S. news when a different Khashoggi was later killed by the Saudis in the embassy there. But the fact is Epstein then played a significant role in the relocation of Southern Air Transport, a CI proprietary airline, from Miami directly to Columbus, Ohio, and the Wexner network up there. These are all Republican things. In 1985, right when Wexner's tax attorney Arthur Shapiro was killed in a gangland murder, that was when Epstein linked up and was given the power of attorney over that financial empire. What I'm trying to say here is there are an awful lot of folks from the Ronald Reagan, George Bush national security state who are still around, alive, and highly influential today. And I think a full given that Epstein was clearly, at the very least, CIA, to say nothing about foreign intelligence. We know he was CIA because Alex Acosta, the prosecutor, when he was up for Department of Labor and attacked for why he didn't go after Epstein harder, he said, I was told to back off because he belonged to intelligence. Our own Justice Department said that he was intelligence.
So, yeah, but when did, so he's, are we suggesting that he was CIA informant, but this happened later after he was busted for being a disgusting human being? Is that how it went down?
I think he was a career access agent in that respect. And I think it spans 3 decades at least. Again, the 1980s was a time of, we were at the height of the Cold War. There was a lot of dirty deeds that were happening by the national security state. We saw this in the JFK files with Robert Mayhew, who was, Epstein's predecessor. We saw the CIA planning to use brothels and prostitutes and set up Hollywood productions.
Work with me here. Okay, just take me. So there's a lot of people who are still influential politically, who are on the list. They're alive and well and kicking, and maybe influential in D.C. right now. So what? Why the hell aren't we prosecuting? The guy was a pedophile, and he was bringing people, some of these people who are, they're influential people. They need to be prosecuted too. Is it just the overwhelming number? I mean, they found a way to prosecute a couple thousand January 6 folks at one time.
Eric, I totally agree with you. I'm calling for a release of the Epstein
I'm just trying to figure. I'm trying to get inside the mind of these folks.
Well, my sense is there's a political and again, I don't know. I haven't, I've talked to a few folks in Washington about this, and I'm making my own opinion based on how I'm reading the tea leaves. But the fact is I think that there is a limited amount of political capital that the White House has to throw around when they're taking on so many things at once. They're taking on USAID. They're taking on the big, beautiful bill in the budget. They're taking on the tariff issue. And the whole time they're being hit from their own side by their own members of Congress on the GOP, by the Chamber of Commerce when it comes to the trade affairs, by various, we saw Michael Waltz, the National Security Council, the National Security Advisor was just, it looks like demoted from that position because of disagreements over foreign policy. And, in the thick of all this, my fear is that these political calculations in terms of getting schmutz on your own side, so to speak, may be part of it. I don't know, but that is,
how high do you think this goes?
If we find that later in time.
I know you don't know, but are we talking senators? Are we talking former cabinet members or current, who knows, whatever? Or are we talking
donors as well?
Big, see, that's what bothers me, Mike, and that is what really bothers me. It's likely some really, really deep-pocketed donors, and they're worried about getting those folks prosecuted and losing that money fund, that money trail.
And again, I don't know that. The issue is that this has been an administration of unprecedented transparency. And it's one of the things that I love. I think this has been the best 120 days of a presidency this country has ever had. And they're so transparent about so much. They let us in on their meetings. They talk to us every day. They're responsive to the base. But on this thing, it's zipped-lipped. And nobody wants to touch it. Nobody wants to say anything publicly.
It's that
despite
big,
having made such an issue of it on the campaign trail.
It's that big. Well, they probably Pam probably looked and go, holy, you know what? And Cash is going, what? And Bongino and Mr. President, he's probably like, okay, let's take our time. So yeah, Mike, really good. I appreciate you sticking around for a second block. I appreciate your time. Mike Bentz, everybody.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. All right, we shall be back. 2.5 minutes. I hear maybe Peter Navarro. We're looking for him. Pete, where are you, Pete? Get to your microphone. 2.5. right, Norwalk, Connecticut, but live shot, because we're live always. I want to bring in my good friend. He's the director of the Office of Trade and Manufacturing Policy for the White House, for President Trump, and it's Peter Navarro. Pete, really good to have you. Right guy, right day. Big announcement came. We saw the announcement. Congratulations, you got a deal. Tell us, and just allow me this. Market was anticipating it was up. Deal came out. Market kind of took off, but then it backed off a little bit going into it. Tell us, are we going to see more deals? And is China happening this weekend?
Eric, it's so fascinating to me. It's like we have this beautiful deal for the day, and everybody wants to know kind of what's next, which is fine. But there's going to be plenty of deals. Trust in Trump. What's cool about this one, Eric, is not just because it's an interesting deal that gives us a template for what you're going to see with all these other countries. It comes on VE Day.
Right.
I mean, think about that.
Right.
80 years ago, it was the UK and the United States that liberated Europe from the Nazis. 80 years ago, we did that together as two countries.
Was that planned?
One.
Was this announcement planned? The victory in Europe Day, the victory in the European Union
But
Day.
it's like this is Trump world. This is like what happens in Trump world. I mean, it's like it was time for doing it, and now it's VE Day. And what's important about it, I can go one small trade deal, one big step for the trade war against America, that kind of stuff. But what's interesting here is the way we're approaching this. And let me just say what you can read more broadly from this trade deal. What we have is Jamison Greer, the U.S. trade representative. He's got a couple hundred people working for him, working with Howard Lutnick, who's got maybe 1,000 people work for him. And on every day, we have countries from around the world coming in on an hourly basis, meeting with Greer and Lutnick. And we're looking at like 5 different verticals. Each country is like fingerprints. They cheat us in all different ways uniquely. And so it's the tariffs, it's the non-tariff barriers, it's the digital taxes, it's the counterfeiting, intellectual property theft, and these other things that go on. And so if you look at what happened today, the first thing that happened was we were able to tear down the technical barriers to trade walls, the phytosanitary barriers to trade. These are non-tariff barriers. What does that mean? It means before today, we couldn't really sell beef, poultry, dairy in any quantities, or ethanol to the Brits. Now we can. And it's $8 billion, which is a lot of money when you're talking about our heartland, Iowa, Kansas, Wisconsin for the dairy. And it's going to be a really good thing. With respect to the steel and aluminum issue, we're going to work closely with Great Britain to allow them into our markets under very controlled conditions, which will benefit them, but which, as the two countries, will help us protect ourselves from the rest of the world. So that's a big deal as well. We're going to have better procurements processes. We're going to fast track all these regulatory issues we have with them. And bury the lead, they're going to buy Boeing jets. Mm-hmm. And as you know, Boeing's been under attack. And we're going to make sure that our national champion, Boeing, is going to be able to sell its products, not just here, U.S., but worldwide.
Pete,
it's heavily dependent on that market.
I want to qualify this with you. You and I have known each other a very long time. And I was 15 years on Wall Street prior to this. I'm not a huge fan of trade barriers. I don't like tariffs. I don't like anything. So I'm out there. I'm thrilled that we're going to bring down bilaterally with country to country tariffs going both directions. I want to hear, I love this. That's why I asked you about China. China's the big kahuna, right? That's the one that will really make the markets move. And I'm all for it if we can get them to reduce the barriers. Will we get that? And again, it's Trump has said, I believe he said this weekend, is it still happening?
Yeah. You're a Wall Street guy, so you know what the quiet period is. We're in the quiet period now with respect to that because look, Scott Bessent and Jameson Greer, the Treasury Secretary of the USTR, are going to go over and have those conversations. And it's not for me to get in the way of that at all. So let's be patient with that process. But I'd push back a little bit on you that this whole trade thing is hinging around China when it's not. I mean, we've got effectively 15 countries, Eric, that really are taking us to the cleaners. The EU has a very big trade surplus with us, and they run the gamut. You know, they got you run them down. Germany, we try to sell a car there. It's a 10% tariff. We charge them 2.5%. Plus, they got their VAT tax, which acts as both a tariff on us and an export subsidy for them. We try to sell them beef or pork or chicken, and they've got, like the UK does, these phytosanitary barriers so that they can say, ooh, that stuff's not healthy, we're keeping it out, when all it's really doing is protecting their own farmers. And so Europe's really important. Vietnam has become a transshipment hub for China. They sell us $15 of stuff for every one we sell them. We've got to kind of deal with that. India is the Maharaja of tariffs. Japan is, I mean, to talk about the art of the non-tariff barrier, they've got that one down. And I can go on down the list of countries, and it's going to be really important. Remember, the trade deficit, which is the root cause of this emergency, is over $1 trillion, which means we're exporting over $1 trillion of our assets every year. It's cumulatively now something like $18 trillion of American wealth has been transferred into foreign hands.
You know what my biggest problem, and I love this, and I have this discussion with Bannon every single opportunity I can. We talk to Bannon every day at the end of the show, and he knows that I'm on the. My biggest issue.
But let me say one thing, Eric. You got to get off this tariff thing. It's like, it's not, the tariffs aren't the principal problem. Okay, we could go to a world of zero tariffs.
I agree with you.
Early discussion. That wouldn't help us at all. It's like non-tariff barriers is where, and the cheating. That's what we got to deal with. Go ahead.
My only issue was Lutnick came up with some, arbitrary number for tariffs for countries, and it was just kind of, as a Wall Street guy, pissed me off.
That's not an arbitrary number. Let me walk you through that. If you think about the problem we face, we have high trade deficits with different countries, but they're different size trade deficits across the countries. As I told you earlier, every country cheats us in a different way. And economic theory tells us you can't run chronic trade deficits with other countries. The market's supposed to adjust, and the only way they do that is by cheating. So when you simply look at the deficit we run with each country as the sum of all their cheating, it's very easy to use the tools of economics, simple concepts like elasticities of supply and demand, and come up with the number. Those numbers represent one thing, Eric. They represent what the tariff would have to be to take the trade deficit down to zero. That's not arbitrary at all. That's precise, and it's based on underlying data.
Pete, you and I, the numbers were our trade deficit with the country divided into their total export into the country, and that it was for every. It was sold one way. Here, and I tell Bannon this: if what the goal of this tariff war is, or whatever you want to call it, is to get them to lower, then great, then perfect. You call it whatever. Call it Red Bull for all I care, right? As long as that's the goal. It just felt like it evolved into, they've been screwing us, so we're going to screw them back around, which it didn't.
But you bought into, you bought into the spin. They what they do. First thing they do is attack us on how the number was calculated, and people bought into that. And what I'm telling you here, I just walked you through it. It's not. It's a very precise calculation of a number designed to eliminate our trade deficit with a given country. And the numbers for Vietnam are higher, for example, than the numbers for Argentina, right? Because we have this enormous trade deficit with Vietnam, and it's less for other countries. So that's where those numbers come from. So don't get sucked into that.
You got to win. I'm going to hold my breath over the weekend as watching my account as well. We got to let you go, but brother, I would love to get you back. You are the right person to be talking with me about this because I want to talk to you a little bit more. A lot more about it. So we'll get you back whenever we possibly can. And congratulations on the win.
I gotta get some of that suntan going and one of those T-shirts back on because this sucks.
I'll send you my Steve Bannon is my spirit animal T-shirt. I've been giving around. Peter Navarro.
Good luck
folks.
to your show, man.
Thank you
Watch
very much.
RAV, man. I'm a fan.
Thank you very much. All right, Pete.
Best of the six.
Go crush it. Go crush it. All righty, folks. Take a look at this. I'm doing a show on X. Mario and the Falls Network. This is a massive show. It's getting like 3 million views on the first episode. Here's a little teaser of the second episode, which is going to drop in just about 21 minutes. Take a look. You feel it before you see it. The shift is in the air, the heat, the hush, the heaviness. The road from Rwanda winds through hills that don't forget. Past the sleeping volcano, where dust clings to your boots, and silence hangs heavy like smoke. And into the restless breath of Goma. In the heart of Central Africa lies a place torn apart by burning fields, by distant gunfire, by a history no one ever finished writing.
Gunfire in Goma today. The UN says bodies are lying in the streets of the city, the capital of eastern Congo. Hundreds have been injured, hospitals are overwhelmed, reports of rapes committed by combatants.
The soil here bleeds. It bleeds gold. It bleeds cobalt, coltan, copper. It bleeds diamonds. It bleeds for our phones, for our cars, for our lights, and it's been bleeding for generations.
We have no peace. There is the war. There are so many people who are crying because they lost their family.
This land was never poor. It was made poor, carved open by empires, drained by countries, abandoned by history. This is Congo, a place where the ground gives everything and the people are left with nothing. The war here doesn't always show its face. It doesn't move in columns or flags. It echoes through the mountains like distant thunder. It speaks in whispers. It hides. All right, well, that goes live probably in like 20 minutes, 19, 20 minutes or so. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break and come back on the backside and have a lot more for you. Be right back. There they are, the control room, the boys and girls in control, Bolling, and I'm up here so you can see me waving in the return in the control room. There he is. Okay, my next guest is the founder and CEO of Rainmaker, a drone-powered cloud seeding company that's redefining how we fight water scarcity. Welcome, Augustus Dorico. Augustus, really cool business that you got here. Tell us what you guys do.
Yeah, totally. So like you said, I'm the founder of Rainmaker. We're a next generation cloud seeding company, and we use drones to fly up into big, puffy, natural existing clouds and make them rain or snow more for water supply to restore agriculture, industrial production, or do ecosystem restoration. And this is a really old technology. It was invented in the United States in 1946. So it's an American technology that scaled up in the past, that we didn't deploy, but other people, other nations have been deploying it and investing in it heavily in the last few decades, namely China. They're investing hundreds of millions of dollars a year into their weather modification program to green their deserts, to fill up their reservoirs, their hydroelectric dams. And Rainmaker is our American answer to this stack and technology and portion of the agricultural sector.
Tell us about it. So I'm fascinated by this. What's the chemical? What's in the Rainmaker that you're seeding clouds?
Yeah, totally. So there's two things that generally come up as appropriate scrutiny or skepticism about this. First is, what's the material that you're using? And the second is, well, are you playing God? Should you even be messing with the weather at all? And so with respect to the chemical, we use something called silver iodide. Its crystalline structure is almost identical to ice. So when you spray it into clouds with liquid droplets, the water freezes around it into big, heavy snowflakes that then fall and melt back into rain or stay as snow. This material, it's 10 times safer than aspirin. You use like 50 grams of it over 1 million acres at a time because you get this chain reaction where you get precipitation way downwind. And we have 80 years of safety data on it. There's no adverse ecological consequences, no adverse consequences to agriculture or human health either. So that's tried and true. It's totally safe, and it's indistinguishable from naturally occurring precipitation.
It's amazing. I think this is phenomenal. If you think about this, so what's the other alternative, folks? So if you have a problem with this, the environment. Okay, what about taking an airplane and how much exhaust, how much carbon are you dumping into the atmosphere when you take an airplane and drop water on crops? And this is a much more efficient way to do it. I got to think food prices are going to come down if this becomes more readily available to more farmers.
Well, yeah, I mean, half a million acres in the Central Valley, according to the State Department of Natural Resources, Central Valley of California, are supposed to turn into desert in the next 5 years just because we don't have enough water, right? Like you're a former commodities guy. The U.S. does $15 billion in crop insurance payouts every year from crop failure due to drought, right? If you want to make America healthy again and grow our own food here and then feed the rest of the world from our food supply, you need cloud seeding to bring more water down on the ground.
I'm just looking at, when Gavin Newsom, when the wildfires were happening, I mean, clearly you can't seed a cloud when the wildfires are happening, but Gavin Newsom said that his reservoirs were dry, and maybe this technology can help fill some reservoirs as well as seeding for crops.
Yeah, I want to make America beautiful again, make it as lush and green and vibrant as possible. Like if you're a patriot, be you in California or Texas or otherwise, and you want to mitigate wildfire risk by making the flora greener down on the ground, if you want to fill up your reservoirs, like I said, for ag, but maybe for wildfire mitigation and prevention, then cloud seeding is really your only option, especially if you're in the interior of the United States. So for the Central Valley, you can't desalinate water and then spend $10 billion on CapEx to get that inland, but you can cloud seed. Our drones are like $10,000 per, depending on the system, and we can make water about an order of magnitude cheaper than desalination or any other technology.
No doubt, desalination is a huge problem around the globe, not just in certain dry areas on the coast. Wow, Augustus Derico, thank you so much. One of our new sponsors of this. Appreciate your time and love your technology, by the way. Congratulations, Rainmaker.
Thanks so much, Eric.
All right, folks. I told you about my podcast, right? YouTube page, both updated daily. You can go there, watch this show whenever you want. If you missed something, you missed the Peter Navarro interview or the Mike Bentz stuff on Jeffrey Epstein, just subscribe. Subscribe on YouTube. It's always going to be free. You get this show, but you also get a bunch of other stuff as well. Really want you to just hit subscribe because we're growing really fast. I want to bring with you. And all you people on Rumble who are mad at me for talking to Peter about tariffs, I got to do it, man. I got to be honest. I got to be true to you. There's no chance I'm not going to bring up most of you have 401ks or pension funds, right? You're going to be affected by this. I'm looking out for you. It's not I have no Wall Street aspirations anymore. Did that. Been there, did that. I love this. You're stuck with me. And no, I'm not getting canceled. Rebel Jim. Love you guys. Hey, up next, War Room. Band's got it. I think Dave Bratt has it actually for today, but you want to stick around. War Room coming up right now. I'll see you tomorrow.